Hi, Scott. To kick us off today, could you briefly introduce yourself and share a bit about APS Bank and your role there as well?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Nilu, for having me, first of all. As you said, my name is Scott Lee Holloway, and I'm a certified customer experience professional and practitioner. As well as my day job, I'm also a board member of the CXPA, the Customer Experience Professionals Association. I chair the judges panel at the European and the International Customer Experience Awards, and a number of other bits and pieces. If anyone is interested, they can find me on LinkedIn, is where I'm most active. But as you said, my day job, I'm head of customer experience at APS Bank. We're a community bank in Southern Europe, in Malta, and we're extremely customer focused and oriented, which is what attracted me to come here in the first place and why I'm still here
Hmm.
after nearly 7 years. And my entryway into customer experience was through customer feedback and complaints management. So listening to our customers and their feedback is really core to what we're doing, what I'm doing every day. It's a big part of what my day looks like each day, and really at the heart of what we're doing. And we've been on a big trajectory as a business. So we're actually over 110 years old,
Hmm.
but we've been on a huge growth in the recent years. And that was since our new CEO, I would say, since Marcel took the reins. What he really helped to do was unlock a lot of the potential and the growth potential of the bank and really set us on the right path. So we've been on a real trajectory since I was with the bank and just slightly before, since, as I said, since Marcel took the reins. So today we've really modernized, and a big part of that has been listening to what our customers do need from us. So that's always at the core of every single move we make and every step we take. And if anyone's interested in finding out more, you can find a lot about us on our website and the bank's socials.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, about our partnership a little bit. So, what made real-time feedback a priority at APS Bank, and where you may be trying to fix something or improve something? And then, of course, why did you choose
Mhm.
Happy or Not as your partner?
Great question. So it wasn't necessary that there was something in particular we were trying to fix. We see customer feedback as an ongoing journey rather than a destination. So
Yeah.
we never say, okay, that's done. Even if we're objectively happy with how we're doing on certain areas, we need to keep tabs on that because it could start to deteriorate, or we could start to, move in the wrong direction. And unless we're measuring that, how do we know? So
Yes.
for us, measurement's really important to understand how we're doing, because I think too many businesses seem to think they have a grasp on how
Hmm.
they're doing with their customers, how their customer satisfaction is, without actually measuring it. And I think if they did really do a measurement exercise, they'd be quite surprised. With Happy or Not in particular, the reason why it's a great solution is that it can sometimes be more challenging to capture feedback from the less digital populations. We know that it's easy to send a survey by email and to gather, usually quite a healthy response rate as well. But you're reaching a certain demographic. And when you're a legacy organization like us, and we're a hybrid, so we're not just digital, we have a physical branch network, of course, and we have no plans for that to change. We want to be accessible to our customers in the community. So it's really great to be receiving a really significant volume of responses through our physical network and from customers who perhaps we don't reach through other channels,
Hmm.
and see how we're doing it across the board and also at each individual location. So it gave us visibility that before we just did not have. And it's challenging sometimes to manage that across different locations when you are geographically dispersed.
Yeah,
So
sure.
what a solution like this does is it gives you that real-time visibility. I mean, I have certain tabs, just a handful, that I have open at all times. They're my kind of default tabs. And the Happy or Not portal is one of them. And I look at it constantly throughout the day. I see
Mhm.
how we're doing, if there's anything to be concerned about. I see how individual branches are doing. I monitor it ongoing. So it's just become part of our kind of modus operandi now. And I can't imagine now not having it. In terms of why we chose Happy or Not, I mean, you're the leader in this type of solution, and I was already very aware of you. And I had known other companies that were using you and had a good experience. So that's always a great place to start.
Hmm.
And we started with a pilot in 2 of our locations. We had a slight hiccup because then there was a small COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, I knew that the last thing people would probably want to do is touch something that they
Hmm.
didn't need to necessarily touch.
Yep,
So
yep.
Your team were really understanding. We placed everything on hold because I didn't want the pandemic to kill the initiative.
Right.
I knew that it wasn't the right time, but I also really believed in the initiative. So what we did was we just paused it slightly until things calmed down a little bit. And then we reignited. And then quite soon after, rolled it out across all of our branches. So every APS branch location has its own Happy or Not terminal. And it's been a really fantastic journey. And I must say that our colleagues have really come on board. And to me, that's what's made the difference. A
Hmm.
solution like this, if you just plug it in and kind of hope for the best, it will do so much.
Hmm.
But if you rally behind it the way that our people have, it really transforms then the insight that you are gathering.
I love that. Um, since going live with Happy or Not, what benefits and maybe measurable business impact have
Mhm.
you seen? And if you have seen something, what actions you or then your team took because of the feedback?
Right. So that, as I said, it's an ongoing journey.
Hmm.
So it's something that we're fine tuning on a continual basis, and we're able to do that because we have the insight, and it's factual and it's objective. So when we started, we noticed that there were certain outliers of individual locations that were not performing to the
Mm.
same level as the rest of the network, and this was very apparent because week after week and month after month, they were the outliers. So we could see where we needed to focus some of our efforts, and the management teams at those locations and the broader management teams responsible for the network really took notice of this and focused their efforts and their improvement coaching and so on at those locations. And some of those locations today are some of the highest performing.
Wow.
So it's been amazing to see that turnaround. And now every single location has a happy index above 90. So
Mm.
so now we're at a position where it's so close between the top branches, and we've done lots of things around this. But one of the things we did was I introduced a quarterly reward scheme. So we want to recognize our colleagues' excellent feedback, because I was looking at it one day and I said, this is just incredible. And I
Yeah.
knew that if we introduced this same solution in other banks, the feedback we're receiving wouldn't be as strong as it is here. So just to give you an idea, we collected nearly 30,000 pieces of feedback last year alone. It was 28,000, which for us
Wow.
as a business is really significant because we recently celebrated passing 100,000 active customers. So you can
Right.
see that
Yes.
30,000 responses for us as an organization is extremely significant in terms of a sample size. And 94% of feedback was positive.
That's
So
amazing.
94% of those walking through our doors would highly recommend, their experience and their visit to our branch. So that's something we're really proud of. So we looked at this a couple of years ago and said we need to start recognizing this because this is just amazing, and put in place a reward scheme. So we have different types of branches because we have tellered, which is branches with cashier service, the more traditional counters and cash services where we dispense and in cash and so on. And we have branches without this called tellerless. So you can't compare kind of those two because it's quite
Hmm.
a different environment. So we have a reward for each branch type. And we also, and this was really important, and I think this is what made the initiative the success it's been as well in terms of the reward scheme. We also reward the trajectory, the delta. So it's not just those at the very top of the leaderboard, it's the most improved branch each quarter that also wins an
Perfect.
award. And what we do is we give them a small allocation and they must spend it as a team. What they spend it on is up to them. They can go, we've had people go to escape rooms, we've had people go for dinner, we've had bowling, we've had lots of great team outings, but they must spend it together as a team. So the pride of winning it and earning it, because it's not everybody gets a badge, it's meritocracy. They really earned that reward. Really means a lot to our teams, and it's something we've been maintaining now for over 2 years. So it's a staple. It's part of how we operate now, and it's something that we have plans to continue doing. So that was really, really successful. And again, that was another way of really rallying our teams behind it. And something I saw in terms of the measurable impact is as soon as we started monitoring and measuring the satisfaction levels, they started to increase because
Mm.
our colleagues knew it was what was being monitored and recognized and rewarded. It's not that they didn't care before, but people do tend to respond to what's being measured and what's being recognized. So when you're suddenly able to quantify that satisfaction level, if it's not as high as we would like it to be, everyone wants to do their part to improve it. So you see this organic shift where suddenly it's a priority and more of a focus than perhaps it was before. So I really cannot thank our colleagues enough for the way they've embraced it. And that's definitely what's made it such a success. but it's been a huge success for us as an organization. We now cannot imagine life without it. We feel like we would have such a blind spot if we didn't have that
Yeah.
overview and that insight coming in.
That's amazing. So I would say from this that your teams have probably responded very well to you having this initiative and program in place. We're obviously, of course, very passionate about sharing feedback across teams,
Yeah.
and just curious to know, how do you do that exactly internally? How do you share the feedback
Yeah.
response?
Well, first of all, Neely, just to maybe share, because it sounds all rosy and
Yeah.
fantastic, just to put other people's mind at rest, if they're maybe facing some resistance in the beginning stages, it wasn't like that before we went in with the solution. There was some concerns and apprehension,
Mm,
and it's the change management piece. People are like, what does
yes.
this mean? Is this tracking us? Is this going to make us look like we're not doing a good job? All of these concerns were there. But we've now got to a stage where if one of the terminals is out of service for any reason, they're chasing me daily and complaining until it's back in the branch. And we did another initiative where I used Lego Serious Play as a methodology in some of our workshops, and I asked them to design their dream branch. I did not even mention Happy or Not, and a number of the teams used the Lego to create a Lego Happy or Not terminal in their branches.
Aw,
So, and this is their dream branch that they're building, where some of them are putting
yeah.
jacuzzis, and the creativity is great. So it's come from apprehension and sort of, what does this mean? Is this a good thing for us? To
Hmm.
them being the biggest champions of it and owning it as well, which is really, really nice to see at each location. They really, really do rally behind it. And the way we've done that in terms of sharing the feedback, we don't share the leaderboard with each location. They
Hmm.
don't know if they're second, third, fourth, fifth. They have no idea. What they know is their results, and they have to compete with themselves, because I don't want to demotivate those that are maybe featuring further down the list, further
Hmm.
down the rankings. So we say each branch is competing with itself, and different locations have different operational footfall, different challenges. So we think
Right.
that's the fairest way to look at it as well. And then obviously they see who the winners are each quarter. They still don't know where they necessarily feature. So that's something that only their senior leadership has visibility of. So we share more detailed insight in terms of benchmarking each location with the leadership of the branch network and the management. But each location receives its own report, and it also receives every single comment that a customer takes the time to
Mm,
write as well. If a customer has taken some time out of their day to write a note for our team to thank them for the great service that they provided, we
mm.
make sure that reaches them. So that's the way we've done that. Um, and then, as we mentioned, on a quarterly basis, we then recognize and reward the ones that have performed excellently. And it's a real tough situation right now because it's so close. It's less than
Mm,
a happy point between the winning branches usually.
yeah,
So it's a great situation to be in, that we've got so many locations doing amazing work, that it's a really tight race. But I believe at this stage, every single one of our branches has won an award. So it's also great to see different teams having their moment to be
yes.
recognized, whether it's most improved, whether it's the highest ranked. So that's been fantastic. But I think that was key to it. It was kind of competing with ourselves rather than each other. And it was a healthy competition then,
Right.
rather than maybe it becoming, competitive in a way that's not such a healthy approach. Um, and that definitely helped incentivize. When we put the reward scheme in place, we saw even a stronger support and focus on this initiative. And what's been great is to be able to sustain it, because we've been doing
Mhm.
this for years now. And sometimes when something's new and shiny, we all think, oh, that's great, and we get behind it. And interest can wane over time. It's human nature, it's what we do. So the great thing is that they've maintained that focus on it. And what I like from a feedback management perspective, again, human nature is we're more likely to reach out if there's a problem, if I need to complain, than to say thanks.
Yeah.
So what these terminals do is they capture all the positive feedback from those that maybe wouldn't go home and contact us to let us know how their visit necessarily went, but are really satisfied upon leaving our branch. So all of that's been wonderful, and a real success story, how we see it internally.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Scott, with your deep CX expertise, if we're looking into 2026, which
Mhm.
trends do you think will possibly shape CX overall, and especially in the banking financial services area?
Great question. Unfortunately, my answer is probably similar to what most people would say right now, because we
Yeah.
are seeing of the continued evolution of AI, and definitely that's changing how all businesses operate. And not only businesses, but even consumers, they're adopting these solutions too. So that's going to continue happening. I see in the future, maybe not necessarily next year, but maybe slightly further down the line, that agentic AI is going to take hold more, and everyone will have their kind of personal assistant. So
Mm.
perhaps they might not even be interacting directly in each case. They might have a solution doing that for them with some of their requests, some of their needs. So I think all in all, from a bank perspective, it's about customers becoming independent as much as possible
Mm.
and to be empowered to be able to take care of their daily, everyday banking needs. But then for us to be accessible when they need us, because that's what a lot of the data shows. Data shows that people want to be able to do things
Yes.
by themselves, and pretty much 24/7 as well. But they also then really want to be able to get hold of
Mm.
support when they need it. And that's something that some of the purely digital players don't always cover off in terms of being accessible in the way that today's customer wants. So that's something we focus on as well. And then in terms of what we would be spending that time doing, it's the more value adding activity for both the business and the customer. So
Hmm.
it's when our expertise really adds value rather than perhaps the repetitive daily transactions and daily banking. It's when we can give guidance and support our customers, and when they really need to sit down with us or speak with us and walk through what their options are. And I think that that's the same for banking across the board, because not everyone has the same level of understanding of financial products or has the same understanding of how bank accounts operate and the different solutions we can provide or any bank can provide. So it's about us being there to help guide them through that and make it easy for them, because life can be hectic, let's face it. So
Hmm.
anytime we can make things that little bit easier, even if it is just their finances, but people's finances is such an integral, important part of our lives.
Yes.
That's what we want to be there to do. And I think that's going to continue happening across the board. And I actually think that as the world does go more automated, which is definitely not going to slow down, that's going to continue, that the human touch and feeling valued and seen and heard is actually going to come through as more important, because there is that chance that customers might not feel that way, or they might feel like they've slipped through the cracks. So I think listening to customers during those moments is going to be more important than ever before, to make sure that we're still meeting their needs as much as we ever have been, and more, raising the bar, and to make sure that we're not losing sight of what matters to them. So those are some of the shifts I see. I know that it's probably a very similar answer that most people would give nowadays, but there is no getting away from the AI
Mm.
revolution that's happening. And I think it can be a great thing for the customer. And I mean, even HappyOrNot solution has elements of AI embedded into it now.
Yeah.
So I think when it's approached from a customer-centered point of view, AI is a wealth of opportunity and a great way to improve the customer experience as well.
Hmm.
So definitely, there's a lot that's going to be shifting here and continue shifting across the board in CX.
Absolutely. Finally, then, what's one piece of advice for CX and operations leaders to keep customers happy and teams also focused on the customer experience?
So the first thing is to make them part of it in terms of your own people, your employees. It shouldn't be something that's happening in the background or that they don't really know what's happening. They should have visibility of what the business is doing and why, and crucially, the role that they play in that. So we do workshops with all of our teams, not just customer facing, where we show all of our colleagues how the work they're doing every day, they're working really, really hard to deliver, how that feeds into the bigger picture and how it connects to what we're doing on a customer experience standpoint. And we started that journey with some teams saying, no, customer experience is for someone else. I don't do that. I'm behind the
Mm.
scenes. I'm doing this. And then we got them to see you're behind the scenes, but look at all of that value that you're adding and look at the work you're doing, how much that's directly feeding into our customer experience. So that was a really, really important one. And then what I've seen is it's a bit like a domino effect or a snowball effect, and it can go in the right direction or the wrong direction. When everyone around them sees great work happening and knows that we're really good at what we do, we can hold our heads high and be really proud
Mm.
to say, I work at APS Bank and we're really customer centered and we really put our customers at the forefront of what we're doing. You all want to strive to then uphold that standard and to make sure that we do meet the expectations of our customers. So it kind of is a positive snowball effect that everyone as the bar keeps raising, everyone wants to push and push that extra little bit to make sure that we do keep meeting the expectations of our customers and we do keep raising the bar for them. And it really becomes almost self-maintaining in the sense that everyone's doing it. It's not just one person like
Mm.
myself pushing it across the organization saying, guys, we've got to care about this. Everyone knows that it's something we need to really focus on, and everyone's doing their part even when no one's looking. So when it becomes really authentic, that's when it's really self-maintaining, and that's when it's really impacting across the organization. But it starts at home, it starts within the organization. So if you don't have your colleagues on board and you're not bringing them
Mm.
along with you, you're not going to get very far. So that's a really important piece that sometimes organizations overlook. They focus really hard on the external customer and
Yeah.
don't connect enough with their teams that are delivering their customer experience. So I spend just as much of my time with our internal customers, with my colleagues, as I do with external initiatives and external customers. And it will always be that way because I know that that's a critical part of us
Mm.
delivering what we need to outside of the organization.
Wonderful. I love that. And that's a great place for us to end this lovely chat. Thank you so much, Scott, for joining us, and we'll talk again soon, hopefully.
Yes, thank you, Nilu, and all of the team. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.